So how does one set limits on our spending? What do you do when you're faced with unexpected expenses? Well, Quinn Martin is here with us to share exactly how we can develop realistic budgets and stick to them. Mr. Martin is an insurance advisor at Sagicor Life, Eastern Caribbean Inc. He is devoted, to improving the lives of St. Kitts and Nevis citizens through the promotion of prudent investment and saving strategies. Mr. Martin has a comprehensive understanding of money management and the importance of saving and investing. So join us as we welcome him to Good Morning SKN. Good morning, Mr. Martin. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Wonderful. I'm great. I think Jamie's great too. Jamie, you're great.
Well, we're talking about money, so how could I not be?
Here we go.
Wonderful. I don't think you could have been on at a better time. It's the new year, and we've been talking about new year, new me, and what are some of our goals for the new year. And I know lots of people have the goal of saving more money or budgeting better. So can you tell us, when you're considering making a budget or controlling your finances or not spending money frivolously, where do you begin? Because it just seems so overwhelming sometimes.
Yes, I think that the first place to begin is starting with what you want to accomplish. If you don't have a goal, then it's very hard to put things in place to remain consistent and to remain dedicated to accomplishing your goal. So the first thing is to start with having a goal. Once you establish your goal, then of course you have to analyze your income. Will your income allow you to accomplish this goal? And once you decipher that it can, then you get into the nitty-gritty, you get into the detailed aspect of the budget by planning out how much money needs to be allocated to what expense. And that will give you a realistic view of what you can accomplish, or if indeed you can accomplish that goal.
You make it sound simple.
I have to say, though, in listening to you, it is technical, it is simple, but to be honest, it actually sounds so boring that I can see why people fall into traps, because it's so much more exciting to walk into town to see something that I want and be like,
spend it
I have the
all.
money on me, I'm going to take that. So what do you think, apart from that, perhaps, would be the biggest reason people don't stick to their budgets, and also because of the not making the goals that you set before? Is there another reason that you find?
Well, yes, I think that budgeting is actually, or can be, difficult, and it becomes difficult when one does not want to embody the discipline or make the sacrifices necessary to conform to the budget. Yes, it's all well and good to write down the expenses. It's good to have an overview of what you want to accomplish, but unless you are willing to put the work in, to make sacrifices, to not spend impulsively, it would be very difficult to stick to the budget. And that is how most people give up, because they recognize that, hey, yes, I want to spend X amount, yes, I want to accomplish this, but as soon as a bump comes in the road that they did not foresee or that they did not plan for, then they give up. So it's all about, number one, sticking to your goal. It's all about having a plan and recognizing also that adjustments must be made along the way.
Wonderful. And I heard you mention discipline, and I think that's really, really important, because you could have a plan and it could be pretty, it could be great, but if you're going to go in town or you're going to go on Amazon and start swiping that card, you're going to end up in problems. So can you tell us a way of how one can track the money that they spend? I mean, do I need to have a pen and paper and write down every single dollar that I'm spending everywhere?
Well, that way of doing it might become a bit tedious, and then persons can lose the paper, and then they lose interest once they lose the paper. And we live in a technological age where we have apps, right? We have different systems in place that we can utilize to ensure that we stay on track and that we can see these budgetary changes in real time, right? These apps allow you to input data, and then you recognize that as you make one particular expense, then that amount is deducted from the overall budget. It gives you an opportunity to analyze the overall budget at the end of the month so that you can make the necessary changes in accordance with fulfilling your goal. So we need to get on with technology, not just writing it down on paper, which is important, but the app and the online means of tracking your finances gives you a greater chance of staying on point. So I would definitely advocate and encourage people to go the technological way.
To your point, I would be very scared if I see the output of my app being that I spent 60% on entertainment. So I guess that's the advantage there.
Well, sometimes you need to see it to make the adjustment,
True.
Sometimes you think that you are on target, although you might have spent that money, but in seeing it in real time, it really allows you to make the necessary adjustment to stick to the goal.
Right.
One question concerning that. We're talking about budgets, and it does seem very particular. I want to ask if there is wiggle room for expenses that might make us feel like we're not on a strict budget. Do you have any advice for that? Should we budget for those things?
Yes, absolutely. I think that we should all have what is called a contingency fund, right? There are things that might come up that are unforeseen, or even things that are foreseen, where you have an aspect of the budget for recreational spending, right? So all of those things come about as a result of having an initial plan, properly outlining the budget, which includes that contingency, which includes that expense for leisurely spending. And once that is properly laid out, then even if, let's say, you fall short or you go over in the budget, you can tap into these funds to get back on track.
Interesting. And you also mentioned a contingency plan, and I think that's something that we may have learned in a very hard way during the pandemic. I mean, I don't think we could have planned for it being 2 years, but I know that, having a plan set in place for something like this, well, not something like this, but a disaster or something unexpected is so important, because I know, sometimes a lot of people, ended up out of work for such a long time. And,
Correct.
Sometimes we just don't think that's going to happen. Like, we just think that we're going to be fine, we're going to be well, everything is going to be great, and money's going to be coming at the end of the month. So even if I don't have it for the end of this week, payday is coming, so I'll be fine. So
He's confessing.
But one of the things I want to touch on in regards to that, especially being an insurance advisor, is the fact that life insurance policies sometimes have what is called a cash value, a savings component built into the policy. And that component builds up funds as the policy progresses. So we found that even when the pandemic hit, persons who would have had life insurance policies with cash values were able to borrow from their policies and cash out from their policies to help to mitigate some of the hardships of COVID. So even in planning your financial future, recognize the fact that an insurance policy is also a good tool that you can utilize and that can safeguard you in the event of these unforeseen circumstances.
That's a really interesting tip. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
The 50-30-20 budget, what is it? Can it even work to help us budget better?
Well, I'm not too familiar with that. Maybe you can give me some insight. 50-30-20.
50-30-20, it's a ratio of spending. So it would be, to my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, 50-30-20 means that you set aside 50%, I think, or you live on your 50% of savings. I'm being cued by my advisor in the studio. Thank you, financial advisor. So 50% is for savings, and the 30% is for pardon? Needs. Really? So you're saving 50% of your income. You have 30% of your needs, and 50% for your needs. There it is. We can see now. 20% for savings, 30% for your wants.
Yes.
Not doable.
I think anything is doable once you have a proper plan in place. And of course, once from the onset, you're able to analyze your income versus your expenditure. But I do believe that some of these templates sometimes have to be tailored specifically to your individual need. Not necessarily because someone says that you have to save 50% of your income, it means that you have to stick hard and fast to that, right? Because person's circumstances are different.
Yes.
I think the important thing to understand is, number one, your main expenses. Number two, your salary, and how is it that you can make the right adjustments in order to ensure that your expenses don't exceed your income. Once you're able to decipher that, then eventually you can make the proper adjustments in order to properly pay your bills as well as to save adequately. I think that should be the important step, as opposed to just sticking to a predefined rule.
Right.
No 50-30-20.
Hey, if it's possible, go right ahead. But each person has his or her individual circumstances, and the key is just to ensure that you're saving adequately and have that contingency fund that you can tap into in the event of emergencies, and a long-term as well as a short-term savings plan.
And I mean, you're an insurance agent and you mentioned the importance. Well, you touched on it just a little bit, but can you expound on the importance of insurance? And again, I know a lot of us think we're young, we're well, everything is fine. Insurance is just taking my money. Can you explain to us the importance
Only
of
you
insurance?
think that. But anyway.
No, lots of people think that way, I'm sure of it.
Well, having insurance is extremely important, and I would go beyond even just important and say it is necessary. And it should be the reverse. When you are young is the time when you actually should have an insurance policy, because when persons are young, they're generally in good health and you stand the best chance of being approved for your insurance policy. So you want to take advantage of that, and it would cost you less than when you are older, right? So insurance gives you an opportunity to do a multitude of things. You get the opportunity to create financial stability for yourself. You create financial stability for your loved ones. It gives you the cash value, depending on the policy that you invest in, that you can tap into in the future and safeguard yourself in times of emergency. And then health insurance also prevents you from having to dig into your own pocket in the event that you get seriously injured or need medical treatment. So these are resources.
And that could be very expensive.
Very, very expensive. And these are resources that people have to become accustomed to taking advantage of, because they were not always available to us. And we have to recognize now we have an opportunity to mitigate these expenses, save, and feel the peace of mind that we are protected and our loved ones are protected.
Yes, it's true. And I also know that there are certain things that need for you to have life insurance. Like if you're going to take a mortgage from the bank,
yes,
you do
student loan as well.
Yes.
Yes. So the earlier the better.
Yes, the earlier the better.
And the cheaper.
Yes, 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 yes.